For leaders to be faithful leaders in our Unitarian Universalist movement, we need to be able to trust them. So I want to talk to you about trust today in leadership. That's really where it all begins, right? That is a foundation of leadership, is to be trustworthy. And even if you are trustworthy, people have to give you their trust. Simple, right? Easy to do. Well, no, not really. So, how do you do that? How do you build trust? Well, I think one of the first things you need to do is you need to get to know people. Let people get to know you. So you have to be accessible. So there are a million different ways to do that, but being able to have one-with-one conversations with people and not to shy away from that. To be able to look someone in the eye and really listen to what they have to say without interrupting, without being defensive, or without proving yourself. Being able to really be a listener first. And then what you do with the information that you've gathered is you can reflect on that and say, I really would like to think about that. People are going to respect you if you take the time to be thoughtful and not just respond in a reactive way, but that you are a thoughtful leader. I mean, because that's who we want to be as religious leaders, is to be able to reflect. That shows maturity in leadership. So we listen well, we reflect on the information we've gained, and then we might have a response. But the response has to be honest, it has to be truthful, and it has to be timely. You can't reflect too long. People then don't trust you. Why aren't you getting back to us? So also being able to be responsive to people. Not reactive, but responsive. We are approached all the time with things other people think we should be doing. So how do we discern what we really should be doing and the decisions we should really be making? Well, you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Or maybe the question is, why have we been doing this? Or maybe the question is, why aren't we doing this? So it all comes back to the why. And you have to be able to know for yourself the why of the decisions you've made. The only way you can stand firm on the decisions that you've made is understanding why you made them. And all the various things you've discerned gives you the why. The reason we made this decision is because we know why we're doing it. We want to have this impact on the world. We have changed the way we're thinking about these issues because of the environment around us. This environment has changed. Therefore, we know now we need to do our life this way. So you always have to know the why of what you're doing in order to really have an impact. That's also a way to communicate, because as good leaders, we have to be able to communicate what we're doing. So being able to say why you're doing what you're doing is just as important as letting people know what decisions have been made. You have to be faithful to your mission. So knowing what your mission is makes all your decisions funnel into that. So every decision that you make has to support the mission of the congregation. So what are our highest values? How do we live them in our mission? And how does every decision we make feed in to our mission? This is how we're really going to have an impact on the world, is by living our mission as fully as possible. And a good mission you can hold in your heart and always come back to. It's like a touchstone for us. Knowing when you're in a conversation, knowing what your mission is how can I listen to this to listen from where this is true for our mission? How can I listen to you and hear the values that are really represented in who we want to be as a community? That's mission. If you can tie the conversation into mission of how we're going to live our highest values in the world and really have an impact, then you can start to create a vision of what that would look like for your current day situation, in your current community, for the needs that are of today. You have to know yourself well enough to make yourself vulnerable to those people who you want to be leading. Can we trust that our system can hold us in taking that risk? Can we trust that we're not going to be a target for slander? Can we trust that people aren't going to see me as weak, aren't going to be mean to me? Can we keep our values of love and joy as we are leading and trust that we will get that in response? They're going to laugh with me as we go forward and make mistakes. They're going to be kind to me even when I have some hard things maybe for them to hear. They're going to hear what I have to say, and we'll be able to walk together in love. So you have to be willing to take risks. And even though that might scare people, they also respect it. So you may not hear that they're respecting your risk-taking and your willingness to try something new and innovative. They actually do respect it. As long as you are communicating well, you are listening well, and you are reflecting. So part of that is maybe you've made a decision that is a little risky. So after you've made that decision, then you need to know that you've reflected on that as well. How is this working out? And to be able to say, I think we've made a mistake. How cool is that to hear one of your leaders say, I don't think we did the right thing. We've thought about it, we've looked at it, and I think we wish we'd taken another approach, but we didn't. And here's what we learned by the approach we took. So to be able to say, we learned this, and we learned this, we've reflected on it, and we've decided to go this path. People respect that you are being thoughtful and intentional, and you're communicating. So that's another way that you build trust, is by communicating not just the good stuff, but also the things that didn't go so well. People need to hear that you are able to learn. And as Unitarian Universalists, we really believe that revelation is open and continuous. So to be able to say, wow, we had a revelation. That path didn't work. And that's okay. So we've learned from that, and we really have learned, and here's our new approach. And we really want you to come along with this. So you notice how I just went from the me to the we? I started going into that board mentality of leadership is never done in a vacuum. So you can't be the leader in a beloved community. You're a leader amongst other leaders, amongst all of us who in one way or another, we are leading this Unitarian Universalist movement. So we are one of many. That's important to me, that we are never doing the work alone. Even though leadership can be a very lonely experience, it can feel very lonely. If you find yourself leading by yourself, something's wrong. So you have to look at what we am I part of? What's the we that I can include in this decision making, in this discernment process, so that we can all together make a better decision? As Unitarian Universalists, we need to talk a little bit about power and authority. Because sometimes we're even afraid of our own power. Because we question authority, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Questioning authority can be very useful. Our congregations have asked us to lead. If you're a member of a board or a congregational president, you have been voted to be a leader. So it's your responsibility to lead. That's how we will build trust, is by them knowing we're in good hands. I know that Kathy will make that decision, keeping our best interests in mind. There's a fear, a trepidation to leading. So what does that do? That holds us back. That keeps us from becoming one of the greatest denominations of our time. And I love Unitarian Universalism so much that I want every leader to be the best leader that they can be. That means you have to lead.